So let's run over a few of the rules while we're here tonight. There are no power-ups enabled within the game. Now, that means that you just can't pick one up. If you were lucky enough to get one beforehand, you will start on the starting line with a power-up, and we're not preventing you from actually using that during the race. Some might say it's a good tactical move. Get some laps under your belt, get the power-up you want, store it, and then drop it when you need it.
Share to Durham. There are 6 people who live there, thank you. Couldn't help it.
Okay, with 45 seconds to go. Let's see what's going to turn out today. Looks like we've got some big hitters and some CVR World Cup real life races in the mix with it today. We got some sprinters in the form of Frank Garcia, and we've got some general wheelers in the form of Casey Shum. Quentin Lefebvre, we all know Quentin won many races in his time. Here comes the final countdown. 15 seconds. We've seen many races before. Hammer will drop, everybody goes out full gas. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, so we got some big numbers straight away into the red. Very typical of a lot of Zwift racing. Everybody drops the hammer really quickly to see who can get off the front. So at the minute we've got, pulling a little bit of a lead, it's Quentin Lefebvre. So this is the hilly reverse segment of Photopia. We've hit out of the starting gate and we're heading now up the road and going under the arches very soon. We've had a power-up drop already with a Team X rider. I think it might even be Frank Garcia. Oh, Jeff Rooney in fact. Jeff Rooney is using the Aero power-up. He's taken off the front at over 400 watts, 5 watts per kilogram. He's making a move straight away. Anybody might think that he's wasting all that power too soon. He's a strong guy, he can keep it going for quite a while. My guess is, he's just trying to pull the pack apart a little bit and keep the A's at the front and break the gap back to the slightly less strong B's. So we've got chasing down that, we've got a pack now of Higham, Griffiths, Zimmerman, Huggy Bear, interesting name. We've got Pellerin, we've got McLean, we've got Smith from BRT, all mixing up in the front pack now. We do seem to have already got a bit of a gap forming between the lead group. There is a lead group forming and a small gap behind. The last man seeming to be Ignacio from Vision Cyclings, and then we've got a 9-second gap to Chuiziski, followed by Stuart Lynn of PTZ and McPhail, not linked to a team but a Canadian rider.
Shelter Seaskill Golf Club. Hashtag Adam Lab. Candice Elliott.
So this course is quite a good course. We've got what is a hill at the end. It's not a big mountain. It's got a couple of gradients on it, but it flattens out halfway through. So what I expect we might see tonight is some big efforts leading into the first hill to try and break this pack apart. I think we may see a couple of the stronger guys taking a bit of a lead out to try and break this group in two and see if they can keep away from the rest of it. As we know with the Zwift drafting dynamics, it's really easy to keep a high speed when you've got a pack of riders, but the breakaways, they're really tough. So you need not only the ability to push hard up the hills, but you've got to sustain it over the top. You've got to keep it going down the hill, and then you've got to keep the gas. You've got to keep your foot on the gas when you're hitting the straights, because otherwise the drafting algorithm just means that the rest of the pack are going to catch up really quickly, and it makes all of that effort null and void in the first place. So as you might expect, many of the front guys sticking together in a pack, and I think we've got a good gap forming. There's a 42-second gap now. Back to Claire's Team WBR, consisting of McPhail, Agnew, Stuart Lynn, Kays from Triple X CVR, and a guy called D Griffiths, who's a rider I've not seen before. Front pack going over the cobbles now. We're going to start to see them probably align, ease it up a little bit, ready for the bottom of the climb. We're coming through the village. We're going to hang a right under this archway. And then we're going to start to see it break up soon, so we'll just get over the crest of this hill. Small left, we've got some big efforts pushing out already. So the guys at the front, they're trying to make sure that they don't get dropped off the back. Drafting dynamics are really interesting here. You don't want to be putting in too much effort. You want to be staying mid-pack. You want to work it just so you come to the front of the pack and gradually just drift back again. Don't let yourself fall off the end. That's when you'll get dropped. So you'll see that now they're putting a bit more power down just to make sure that they keep the momentum going up and over the top of the crest of this hill. We've got 5 watt per kilogram coming from Ayres. We've got Chew knocking around 4 to 5 watt per kilogram. Ayres again still pushing quite hard at 5 watts. What you'll see is that some people mid-pack. McLean is a good example of this. He won't be expending quite as much effort. He'll be making full advantage of the draft. And then you'll see further towards the back is drafting extraordinaire Frank Garcia, who will most definitely not be expending too much energy. His forte is the sprint. He'll do everything he can to stay in that group, and then he'll unleash that killer sprint at the end over the finish line. So here we go, they're going to come over the suspension bridge very shortly. We can already start to see big numbers being put out. They're pushing hard early on here. This is a little bit unusual. Normally we see this just sort of even out slightly, flatten out, take a bit of a breather, and then we're going to start to get ready to push. So who's going to push first as we approach the line coming up now? Usually as we cross over the marker line on the road here, it denotes the beginning of the King of the Mountain. We're going to see just who's ready to drop the hammer, who's pushing hard. So we're seeing 6 watts per kilogram already. He's coming up soon. We're past the old shack. This is when we expect to see a little bit of power coming out. Inclination starts to gradually rise. We've got a 2% incline at the moment. As we go under the arches of those cyclists, we'll start to see that kick up significantly more into the 11% if I'm not mistaken. So Zimmerman, 7.9 watts per kilogram. He's taken the lead off the front. If we look over his shoulder, we can start to see the way the rest of the pack is. There we go. So 8 watts per kilogram, 7 watts per kilogram, followed by Ayres at 7.7 watts per kilogram. 9.6 by Zimmerman. He's really pushing hard. He's hit the gradient, the 10% gradient. He's pushing hard. This is where you could get the gap, but he's doing this on his own. He's got Quentin Lefleur pushing hard to come up behind him as well. We've got a 1 second gap up to Ayres, and then we've got a 2 second gap over Zimmerman at the front, still pushing hard at 6.4 watts. This guy must be pretty light. He's doing 400 odd watts at 7 watts per kilogram, but he's beating hard, 189 beats per minute. Has to ease off. This is where it flattens ever so slightly. Just get a little bit of a breather, ready to kick up again. Then up goes the grade. Back up to 6%, 7% grade. Now you've got to put your power down, because if you forget to do it right now, you actually end up letting the pack come and chase you back, and that's exactly what's happening. So the momentum that was followed through from the greater pack, the drafting that they were all receiving from each other, that's kept their speed going. And that big effort that Zimmerman put out, trying to get a break there, was nullified by the work that the rest of the pack are putting together. I do think we've got a bit of a split here, however. So the front group now consists of here we got Higman, Dozell, Laxeria, Carr, Rooney, Ayres, Zimmerman, Lefebvre, Creel, Garcia, and then we've got a gap. We've got a 1 second back going back to Chow, who I think is just bridging over. He is. And then we've got Huggy Bear, still in that same lead pack, but now we have a 3 second gap back to Seaton, Pellerin, Smith, Rogers, Griffith, and McKillop. So by all accounts, this is going to be the lead group for the rest of the race. These guys, pretty nifty racers. They know each other quite well. Let's give some ride-ons. Let's give a ride-on to Frank Garcia. Let's give a ride-on to Higman. And we'll give a ride-on to Jeff Rooney as well of Team X. Now Jeff, I know Jeff quite well. Jeff's an astounding character. This guy, he fell off a ladder 6 meters up when he was at work just 12 months ago. He broke his leg in multiple places. He's had to have titanium screws put into his leg. He was off the bike, no training, for a considerable period of time. And look at this, he's back on the bike, he's racing, he's competitive, he's currently putting out 5 watts per kilogram. He is an incredible athlete. His previous history, well his history before short Zwift racing, is actually in 24-hour mountain bike racing, so he's no stranger to excessive exercise, and he loves to push himself as hard as he possibly can. So gradients dropped now a little bit, taking a bit of a breather. It's going to start to go back up again. It looks like we've got a bit of a push going ahead from the front. Got a 1 second gap opened up. That's from Luzell. We've got Higman following hard, and Rooney's still in the mix of it there as well. They didn't push hard enough. The rest of the pack, they're approaching. Zimmerman's knocking out 5 watts, 8 watts per kilogram. Creel, he's seen the gap form, 8.4 watts per kilogram, putting down the power now. Still beating quite low. Jeffrey Creel, an Australian guy. Met him in real life in London at the CVR World Cup there. Really top guy, performed really well. Along with Quentin Lefleur, still mixing it up. Here we go over the top of the King of the Mountain. What's going to happen now? Who can keep the power down? Is this group going to split up? Are they going to keep it flat? Keep it until we get to the flat. So KOM time of 3 minutes 52.8 goes to Zimmerman. We get the second time of 3 minutes 53 goes to Seaton. Jeff Rooney takes 3 minutes 53.5. Frank Garcia 3:53.6. Not quite as quick as the Zone E races. We'll have a quick look at the results of those shortly. Well, let's refresh our memory, shall we, about the various different zones that CVR World Cup are actually operating on. So I'm going to pop a map up on the front here. And you can see from this zone that we're currently in Zone F. And that means that every 3 hours before and after this race, there was another CVR race. And that's not just for men, that's for men and women. CVR World Cup is about equality. We run equal races, equal course for both sexes. So the thought behind this was, let's make racing accessible for as many people in as many time zones as possible, and this is what the pre-season is about. We've got 8 races a day, 3-hour intervals. You've got to register, you pick the zone in which you're going to actually race in, and then you stick to that zone, and you get to know the competitors that you're going to be racing against. You get to see them week in, week out. It also makes scoring a bit easier. If you can imagine, if you decide you can chop and change between different zones every day, every race day, it becomes a nightmare because you're then competing against different people. By pre-selecting your zone and sticking to your zone, it means that we can score you reliably and regularly. You know, as I say, you know who you're racing against, and at the end of the pre-season, we're set up ready to start the regular season. Okay, so this lead group, we have some drop-offs at the back. I'm losing people left, right and centre here. Zwift is doing something very unusual. I've had dropouts all over the place. Okay, I think I'm getting everybody back again. Yes. No, yes. I'm not sure if this is just my stream or what's happening here because I've lost seemingly a lot of riders. Okay, I think we're back with the main group. Who have we got? Jeffrey Creel here. Jeff Rooney. Oh, he disappeared.
That was a lengthy break, wasn't it? Wiener Corona. I won't do that again.
Well, I apologise to everybody for this. The stream is going absolutely nuts. For some reason, I'm losing people left, right, and centre. It keeps skipping for different people, different areas. People keep disappearing. I just do not quite know what's going on. So I'm just going to double check a few things on my internet connection to make sure there's nothing that I've got streaming which is causing the problem. Let's see if we can get some stability back here. Seems like we might have got something. So it looks like Zimmerman is still off the front here. We've got a group with Zimmerman, Rooney, Seaton, Huggy Bear, Creel, Ray Fifth of BRT is a
Humperdinck. Winthorpe. Shot at Brownie and Gina. Good lad, Darren Mara. Nathan Stewart, welcome. Big shot to the Irish crew. DK all the world. Right side. Creeping. Shout at dawn. Lynn Rudd's in the house. Beachcomber gang. She can still rave at 45, that lass. Here's Joanna, Evie, and all that. 2 coops. Mike Stead's in the house from America. Shout to Lucy Wheeler. Mattress back Maggie Lee. Betty Duncan's fans. Emma Little. Can you see now?
Okay, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. It appears I had some internet connectivity issues. I think I was taking up too much bandwidth, and I was just seeing people disappearing all over the place. We seem to have shut down some network resources here, so let's hope we've got a better job of keeping this going smoothly. So we're back at the lead pack now. We are 1 lap down, and we look like we have got a group leading currently by Seaton with Ayres, Lizelle, Huggy Bear. We've got a car in here. We've got Jeffrey Creel. We've got Frank Garcia, Jeff Rooney, Rogers. Rooney's dropped off. He's dropped off. We've got no power from Rooney. Jeff Rooney, what's going on? I wonder if he's had a dropout. What have we got here? We've got no cadence and we've got no power. That's a shame for Jeff Rooney. He must have burnt himself out early on in this stream, early on in this race. So let's have a quick look at Quentin Lefay. He ran to Vision Cycling. Many of you will probably know. He also commentates alongside Nathan Guerra on Zwift Community Live. He is a seasoned racer on Zwift. We've seen him race and win many races in his time. So here's the lead group. coming again to us, the second climb of the day. As we mentioned earlier on, they're going to take this a little bit easier. We can see that the average pounds have dropped quite a bit from last time. But they're going to cross the King of the Mountain timeline shortly outside the old shack here. Who's going to make the first jump? Let's see what these guys have got left in their legs. So we're at the 2% gradient area. Up into 4, and out comes the power. Here we go. Higgum, he's coming up now. We've got 6 watts per kilogram from Seaton. He's pushing hard, and who we've got coming through this pack as well? Garcia's still with there. 6.6 watts per quintillion into the red. Le Cossier. 10 watts per kilogram for Ez, 10 watts per kilogram, right at the 10% gradient. He's got every intent to pull away. We've got red numbers followed by Jeffrey Creel. We've got people desperate to stay with this group. You do not want to lose this group right now. So people are digging hard. Let's take a quick look at Zimmerman, for example. So this guy, 282 watts, dropping out 4.8 watts. He's eased off slightly, but he's got a heavy heart. He's got 185 beats per minute. This is a bit relentless now because it evens off ever so slightly. Let those legs rest for just a moment before then kicking again up the next slope. But we've got an A car from the USA. He's still at 6.6, 6.1, 6.4 watts per kilogram. He's pulled away a 3-second lead over the group behind them. That group is settling down a little bit though. They're not putting out the same big watts at 320 watts. However, I just noticed a problem. We have no heart rate from a car from the United States of America. I'm sorry, sir, but that will be a DQ. Rule number 1 in the CVR World Cup League races is heart rate monitors are mandatory. We need to make sure that people are performing within human limits. If we see somebody who's got 100 beats per minute and 500 watts going consistently, we know there's got to be something wrong with their setup. So we're going to leave car for a moment. And then we're going to look at Lizelle from Canada, from Team 4i it appears. He's decided to chase Carr, even though Carr is 11 seconds up the front. So Lizelle has broken a 1-second lead. Oh, but here comes the pack. He tried hard to make that stick, but he hasn't been able to do so. So we've got that gap has broken back down again. I expect these guys to group up together. Take a bit of a breather as it evens off here. I think we actually get a negative gradient for a very small period of time before it then goes round this left hand corner, starts to incline again, and then we'll start to see the race up to the King of the Mountain barrier.
Help me, like I said. Big shout to Matty P. The Zachary family in the house.
Okay, here comes the incline again.
Kids minibus.
Starting to ramp up slightly. It's not a big incline.
Andy, Nick. Who's Kitchen Ribbon? Shop for Snicks. Shout at, oh sorry, Eva, you spelled it wrong. Friday, August the 18th.
So Carr's still sitting at 4 seconds at the front, but I do genuinely hope that everybody decides not to follow Carr. Oh, and he's disappeared off my list completely. No, there he's back again. I wonder if I'm having internet connection issues. Losing people. Need to shut down some things. Crossing the King of the Mountain.
good shoot.
So ladies and gentlemen, I've got to apologise again for what appears to be an unreliable internet connection. I've got riders jumping in and out all over the place. So I'm not actually able to tell you exactly what is going on quite at the moment. Aha, we have a pack back.
Oh, it's a good tune. Chloe Bell. Go on Paris tonight. Lucky bugger. 9 till 10. Hashtag Derek. I can see you. Derek.
Well, we are 2 laps down. I'd love to be able to give you a pretty good description of what's going on, but currently I have riders appearing and disappearing, then reappearing and disappearing, apart from the one and only Jeffrey Creel. He seems to be forthright within my stream. Nobody is moving, everybody is going in different directions apart from Jeffrey. So we will stick with him because he's close to the front. Currently keeps fluctuating between 8th and about 20th according to the scoreboard, but that's definitely a connection related issue. I saw a pack then, but alas, it disappeared again. Okay, so we're with Frank Garcia at the moment.
Oh, we came in.
Oh, we were, now he's disappeared.
Nice little rave tonight, Nick. Dave Lace. Go for the Corona. Not many left. Until 10. Hey, good tune, great covers. It's mine and Alice's first.
So let's just have a go at trying to see who's at the front of this pack. We've got Luzelle, the Canadian 4i rider, followed by Ayres of the USA. We've got a car from the USA also, but as we said earlier on, he has no heart rate monitor, so he will not place with points within this race. In the same group, we've got Higham from the USA, we've got Frank Garcia from the USA, we've got Jeffrey Creel from Australia, Quentin Lafleur from France, Jay Pellerin from Canada. We've got a mix of A and B riders in this group, and this has to be expected. It's a relatively short race. It's 27 miles, I believe, from memory. It's got 4 hill climbs, but as we said, this is not a mountain course, it's a hilly course, so it does, the nature of the hill allows you to almost sprint up the first part, take a bit of respite in the middle, let that little incline creep back up again, and then hit it hard again over the top of the king of the mountain. So, our lead group, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 riders in the main group. And then the gap after that, oh no, we got more than that, maybe 12. And there's a 15-second gap going back to Pellerin. Pellerin's now standing on his own, really, with a 2-minute 53 gap going back to the next group of PMC. There's Rogers and Smith from BRT. We've got Griffith from BRT also, and McKillop from Canada. We've got a Vision rider back there, Ignacio, my apologies, Ignacio. And then about 4 minutes off the lead group. So, who's your money going to be on tonight? Number 1, leading this race, is Huggy Bear from the United Kingdom. He's putting 4.8 watts, 4.7 watts per kilogram, going up this slight incline, getting ready for the 3rd time up the hill today. This is Watopia, hilly reverse, remember. This is 4 laps, we've done 2 already, but on the 3rd lap, and we're going to start to see the lead group shortly ascending the hill to the top of the king of the mountain. You need to watch out for a few riders in here. Now, you've got 2 Team Vision riders, Quentin Lefay and Jeffrey Creel. You might expect that they would work together on this. There's a good opportunity to do so. I think Jeffrey's probably the slightly stronger. We may have seen in previous races that Jeffrey is definitely stronger than Quentin, and so he might just enable Quentin to rest a little bit, to stay with the main pack, and then put out what he's got a decent sprint towards the end. The other one to watch in terms of a sprint finish is most definitely Frank Garcia. We have probably seen him win more sprint finishes than any other racer on Zwift. If he stays with this front pack, which it looks very likely to do so at the moment, there's every probability that he is going to push very, very hard to the very, very end. So we group up compacto, approaching the King of the Mountain line. The last 2 laps we've seen at this hill, everybody waits to the high of gradient point and then they put down the power. That's when you can make a gap happen quickly. Leading at the front, Zimmerman. Nice group together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 riders. 11 riders passing under the arches of the bicycles, statues. And this is when we will start to see the power to be pushed down. This group is likely to stay close together. Oh, Zimmerman, here he goes. He's got 8 watts. This is an earlier jump than normal. Everybody's reacting now. But you see Carr react with that. Lacossiere react as well. We've got Creel reacting. We've got red numbers, 11 watts per kilogram from Ayres. We've got big numbers being pushed out really hard here. Ayres is really making a good effort, but remember, Ayres, no heart rate monitor. He will not feature. We've got 2 with no heart rate monitors, Ayres and Carr. I'm afraid, gentlemen, you will not be placed. You cannot win this race without a heart rate monitor. It is essential. Please make sure that next time when you do come and race the CVR World Cup Preseason race, you do have a working heart rate monitor. So, did that break us apart? There is a little bit of a gap forming here, with back to Jeffrey Creel and Quentin Lefay. Huggy Bear's in that back end of this group, but they're going to group back up together. There was not a sufficient gap between these riders to enable the front group to break away and make that gap stick. At this sort of stage and at this hill, they need to have pulled away about 5-6 seconds maybe, and then if there was enough of them, maybe 4 or 5 riders, they would need to keep the power down and keep that gap big, and then they had every opportunity of making a break, but they didn't get that this time. So we see now a 43-second gap back to Pellerin, with Smith a further 2 minutes 56 back. We've seen consistent King of the Mountain times today, at 3:53 to begin with and a 3:52 from Zimmerman. Let's wait and see what actually happens with this third lap.
Big shot to the old school selector crew.
We are recording this stream today, so we will have evidence of Ez and Car having no heart rate monitors. So gentlemen, for next time, please make sure you do have a heart rate monitor, because you are affecting a race which you cannot win now. We respectfully request that you do not follow people with a heart rate monitor on.
Working men's club, which means no lassies, Jonah.
So we've got a bit of a gradient coming up again. We're approaching the third time up the King of the Mountain. And we've got some quite good tunes going on in the background today. You'll have to apologise, a bit of a mess has turned out midway through this race with the internet connection issues. They seem to have resolved themselves a little bit now. I wonder if we had some updates occurring. We now seem to have a strong and steady connection. You may also have to excuse me personally. This is the first time I've ever commentated live on any stream race. In fact, it's probably the first time I've ever streamed live and not been racing. So I may be talking rubbish at some point during the stream. Again, forgive me. Turn me on. Huggy Bear, he's at the front. He sees the arch of the King of the Mountain. 4.4 watts, not a great big effort at the moment. 300 odd watts, 156 beats per minute. He's in these tempos on here.
Big shot, Claire Connell and Jimmy.
So we see Ez again making a big push.
Some hangover material.
Okay, that's the third time down the hill, down the mountain. Not a mountain really, down the hill. This is hilly Watopia, remember. So in last week's races, we had a couple of comments with people who had started the race with power-ups. Now the rules didn't actually state you could or you couldn't have a power-up, but what we did do is restricted the use of them in the event module, which means that when you went under a banner you wouldn't be able to get a power-up. However, those of you who are seasoned racers, or in fact those of you who've done any races before, will probably know that if you've been on the course beforehand and you picked up a power-up and you join an event and you start an event, then that power-up remains with you until you go under a banner, which means that as soon as you come out the start gate you do have the ability to use that power-up. That could be in the form of a aero power-up, it could be a feather power-up, it could be the drafting power-up. We've modified the rules to make this clear. Check out cvrworldcup.com/CVR-league. You get all of the results and all the data you need on the series there. So as they cross the start-finish line on the third lap, let's just talk a little bit about what the CVR World Cup League actually is. So hopefully you've heard of CVR World Cup before. That is the Cyclogen Virtual Racing World Cup. These are live events. This is where it started from. The CVR World Cup League is the feed-in for the elite category into those live events. So we're going to run 4 seasons a year. Those seasons are split into 2 half seasons and then a post season. So in each half season there will be 4 race days. On each race day there will be 8 races, each one in 3 hours with 3 hour space and gap between the next. This allows the maximum amount of flexibility for riders. It doesn't matter where you live, if you're in Australia, if you're in Austria, or if you're in Iceland, you can still race a CVR World Cup race. What we do need you to do though, however, is register for these races in advance. We need to know who's going to be in which zone. We need to make sure that you're going to be competing against the same people every week so that we can score you equally. But the really cool thing about the CVR World Cup League is that at the end of the season, at the end of the regular season, we have 8 zones. The winner of each of those 8 zones will be invited to the next CVR World Cup live event in Los Angeles on the 25th of March. There is currently $106,000 prizes up for grabs. There is no other virtual cycling related prize like this anywhere in the world. This is the premium world tournament of virtual cycling. What we're also then going to offer is 2nd and 3rd place from zones A, B, C, D, E, F and G going to the playoffs. So we'll have 16 riders entering the playoffs, and then every week we'll cut that number in half in head-to-head competition. What's really interesting about this is we want to promote the use of teams. We want you to bring your team along. You can take their draft, let them pull you along on the flats, let them help you up the hill. Use the tactics, use Discord, use CycleView. We want you to use CycleView. Use it as a team car. You can get people's streams, you can advise them, you can get your teammates, you can make a massive difference to the ability of your teammates to win that race. That will whittle down over 4 weeks from 16 to 2 people. That race, the final of the post-season race, will define the last place that we give away to the Cyclogent Virtual Racing World Cup live event in Los Angeles. This is the elite category races. We're 18.7 miles now into this race. This is the second of the pre-season. We're using the pre-season to test out the various different setups and ideas ready for the regular season. So we don't want to do what Zwift did. We don't want to cancel a series halfway through because the participation level isn't right, so we don't think there's enough women in it. We want to make sure we get it right first time, so the pre-season is all about that. We're taking people's input, we're allowing people to make sure that they're in the right race bracket. We're not using watt per kilogram race brackets. We've decided that we need to have performance based upon CVR rankings. So Cyclogent versus Virtual Racing rankings looks not at your watt per kilogram, how much power per kilogram of weight you have. It looks about your performance. That means that it doesn't matter if you're a bigger guy or if you're a smaller guy, because sometimes you win races if it's a flat guy and you've got lots of power. If you're a smaller, lighter guy, you haven't got as much power but you've got a high watt per kilogram, you're going to find it much easier to win the mountain races. We've taken that, what is an unfair metric really to gauge performance, because it doesn't also look at skill in any manner. Now you'll probably see around amongst the races that we're looking at now, on the 4th lap that is, of this race, that some of them, they don't lead off the front, they sit in the middle of the pack. They sit at the back of the pack, they conserve energy. They're not wasting it by taking a little bit of a sprint up the front, because they know that if you do that, you've got to sustain it. You've got to have continuance. You can't just put in a short dig and expect it to stick, because that pack will come back on you faster than you know what's hit you. Those guys are seasoned. They know exactly what they're doing. So as they're going over the cobbles right now, coming around the corner, we're going to be approaching the final climb before too long. We're 19.6 miles in. This is entirely likely where this race could be made or break. If somebody can put in a big dig, a big effort going up and over this hill, then make it stick. They're probably going to need 2 or 3 people, unless they can maintain like 6 watts per kilogram for about 4 minutes going up this hill, but maybe a bit less, maybe 3 minutes. If they can maintain 6 watts per kilogram 3 minutes going up this hill, there's a very good chance that an individual can make a break. But if they can't, they're going to need people around them to help them. So they're going to be needing to have one person making a big effort, followed by at least 2 others, and then taking it like a bit of a team time trial, each one pulling at the front, pulling the others along, giving them a little opportunity to have a rest in order to get ready for their next pull. But we'll see what happens with this. We've got some big hitters still in here. So as I said before, Zimmerman we've seen him do some big breaks. I'd expect him to be putting down some big power quite soon. Jeffrey Creel's hanging about 2.7 watts per kilogram. This guy's got legs. He can put an awful lot more out than that. Let's see who's going to jump first when it comes to the incline. This is most definitely a time where heart rates start to just relax a little bit. People start to catch their breath. Just work out that lactic acid through the legs. Make sure that they're storing as much energy as they can, ready to make the jump for that 10% incline as they go around the corner under the arches of the alien bicyclist statues. So again, just as a reminder to anybody who's watching, a car from the USA will not win this race, and he will be disqualified for not having a heart rate monitor. That is the same for Kate Ayres as well. He also does not have a heart rate monitor and will not be able to be placed or receive any points within this CVR World Cup. And we've just found that D. Higham as well, also 20 miles in, he also has no heart rate monitor. I'm afraid to say you will not be eligible for any points whatsoever. Okay, this is the King of the Mountain line. This is the start of the time of this sector. It's a 2% average gradient for 1.5 miles. Currently, A. Zimmerman has got a time of 3 minutes 52. That was done on the second lap, I believe. The rest, 3 minutes 53, were done on the first lap. Let's see what these guys have got in them on the way up here.
Team Whitehead. Phil Goodall.
So we can see it creeping on. We've got 5, we've got 7, Lefebvre, Zimmerman, 8, 8.2, 12 watts per kilogram from Ayres. Please, Mr. Ayres, do not do this. You will not win this race. Quentin Lefebvre following up. It's hit the gradient. Here comes it round the corner. It's the 10% now. We've got some big watts coming out. We've got Zimmerman at 8 watts. We've got Huggy Bear at 10 watts. We've got Rosell at 10 watts. We've got Creel at 9 watts, 8 watts, 8.7 watts. Who is making this break? So Ayres is off the front. I genuinely hope that people can just let him go off the front and not follow him, but they may not be aware of his lack of heart rate monitor. He seems to have formed a gap of about 4 seconds, and we genuinely hope that he maintains that and doesn't pull off, because he's now putting out 15 watts per kilo. He's sprinting. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what we mean. This is a prime example of a setup which is suspect, and why this gentleman cannot place at the front of this race. Now back to who is actually going to win this race. So they've gone up the first incline. It's now levelled off to a 1% gradient. They're regrouping together. They're going to start to save a bit of energy. Rosell's putting some big power down, 8 watts per kilogram. He's decided that was exactly the right time to brake. Has he got the legs to continue it? 8.4 watts per kilogram. He's pulled away, now a 2-second lead. Behind him we've got Zimmerman, Higham, Lasseria, Garcia, Jeffrey Creel. Can this group stick together? These guys are going to have to work hard. They're going to have to work hard to make sure they maintain the speed of this pack so that they can catch back up to Rosell. Rosell's beating hard, 450 watts, 183 beats per minute. He is putting a big effort in, and he's made a 7-second lead. He's still putting down 6 watts per kilogram. The gap is remaining at 7 watts. What we might see here is that gap reduce when we get closer to the top of the mountain and certainly down the incline. But this group have got to kick it up now. If they want to bridge that back, they've got to kick it up, because Rosell is still at 5.4 watts per kilogram. The chase group behind them is still only at 4 watts, and they're edging off a bit as well. They're backing off. So currently we have, at the very head of the race is Kate Ayres from the USA, but with no heartbeat, as we said. He will not be placed. Rosell, he is 20 seconds behind him at 5.3 watts per kilogram. He put a monster effort in to try and break away from the pack, and he's now got a 10-second lead over Carr. Again, reiterating, Carr also will not be placed within this race because he has no heart rate monitoring as well. Huggy Bear from the United Kingdom, he's behind him, 4.9 watts per kilogram. He is part of this main group, which includes Higham. Again, no heart rate monitor, he will not be included. We've got Seaton from the USA, we've got Frank Garcia from the USA, we've got Jeffrey Creel from Australia, we've Quentin Lefebvre from France, and we've got H. Neff who is 30 seconds back down to the last group. Let's stick with this front group as they come up to the top of the King of the Mountain. What's going on here? Hickam, he's being caught. Luzel, where has Luzel gone? Luzel has overtaken a car. He is at the front. He's gone over the top of the King of the Mountain in 3 minutes 49.3 seconds. He holds this polka dot jersey. He is the King of the Mountain holder, and he knocked 3 seconds off that last best time. There's now a 12-second gap between him and the rest of the group. Seating, Hickam, Carr, Huggy Bear, Zimmerman, Lacussier, Jeffrey Creel, Frank Garcia. They're all in this chase group, but I'm afraid to say they are not likely to challenge Luzel, who is now 17 seconds away and still putting out 4.7 watts per kilogram. There seems to be very little that is going to stop this gentleman from winning this race. The main question comes down to now, who has got the legs to sprint? So this, gentlemen and ladies and boys and girls, could be where the fun occurs. I urge you to keep your eyes on some of the unexpected, as it could happen before you even realise. Mr. Garcia is in the pack here. Turning around the corner. Here they come. They're going to approach this finish line very soon. Who's got the legs for the sprint? Who has got the legs for the sprint? We see Huggy Bear already opening up on 10 watts per kilogram. Who's making the break first? Zimmerman's off there. He's got 10 watts per kilogram. We've got Lussier, got 10 watts per kilogram. They're a long way out. Here comes Zimmerman again. He's still pushing 18 watts per kilogram. This man is incredible. He's doing 1,000 watts, 105 watts beats per minute, 176 BPM. This guy, there are red numbers all over the place. 11.5 watts from Garcia, 12 watts from from Creel, 12 watts from Carr, 10 watts from Lussier, 10 watts from Quentin Lafleur, 9 watts from Hickam, Seaton. Wow, that was just amazing. Lucelle followed by Zimmerman. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.